So you're putting big brakes in your Miata, but you don't want the bias to feel weird. That's where this Wilwood bias adjuster comes into play. So right now, I've got the Wilwood 4-piston front brakes, the Dynalite 11 inches up front, and I'm going to be putting 1.8 sport rotors in the back with a flow force bracket adjuster to fit 1.8 brakes. And the 4 pistons are obviously going to be way more powerful than the 1.8 brakes in the back. So I'm going to be installing this guy, and I'll show you the install process and how to set the bias and everything. It just goes right in place of your factory bias adjuster. So the way this works is this line here is your front brake bias, and this line here is your rear. And all we're going to do now, this only has 2 portholes in it, so we're going to bridge the front so the front is always essentially 100% if I close this. And then the rear line will come in the bottom here and out the top, and this is your adjustment valve, so you can, increase or decrease your adjustment or your rear brake pressure. Really simple concept. I don't know why I ever thought it was so complex. Flyin Miata sells a kit that has everything you need, so it'll have the adapters to run into these 1/8 27 MPTs, which, since these are Japanese, they're not 1/8. And then it has an adapter that'll just bridge this gap right here perfectly. And then the bleeding process is similar. I'll do that in the video. It'll be instantaneous, but I got to do the rear brakes first before I do that. So today, in real time, I'm just going to install this. I really hope this makes the brakes feel, really, really aggressive, which would be nice. If I'm going to shoot for 300 to 400 horsepower, that's going to be pretty important. So yeah, let's get to it, and we'll throw this in. I'll talk you guys through the steps. So this is everything that comes with the kit. So you've got some Loctite 545. This is the straight fitting that's going to run from the front lines to the front line, because we're going to bypass the bias valve. These come with the Wilwood kit, but we're not going to use them because they're NPT. These are the ones that come with the Flyin Miata setup. So these will thread right into here and mate up with the brake lines existing in the Miata. And then they also give you a nice set of instructions, which I will definitely be using to make sure that I don't screw this up and tell you guys anything wrong. But that's really about it. So the first thing you're going to want to do, because these are pipe threads, is seal this up with some sort of hydraulic safe fluid. You want to do the male threads, always, never do the female threads, and only on the adapter. The piece in the Miata does not need any. So I've got some here, and for those of you curious, you always want to wrap it around as if you are threading this in. So start this way and wrap it like you're twisting it righty-tighty. And that way, when you're threading it in, if you go the other way as you thread it in, this will unwind itself and it won't actually seal. So I'll just time-lapse you through it. It's really simple. Per the instructions, there's labels here, so F and F, these are your front lines, and this is your in and this is your out for your rear. So this is where we're going to want to put that union fitting right here, and this is where we're going to want to run the brake master, or the brake proportioning valve. So we're going to loosen these before we loosen the overall bracket, and then once we've got these loose, we'll just take this mount off the brake booster by loosening this bolt down here. And then we'll take these out all the way. Before we take those out, make sure that down here you have some sort of rag or something. Brake fluid is caustic and it will eat the paint if it sits there for long enough. Ask me how I know. Had the master cylinder fail on the clutch and it did the same thing. So just throw a bunch of rags down there that you don't care about, or cardboard or something. And we're gonna try and do this fast, which is funny on video, but we're going to try and do this fast so that we can not lose all the brake fluid and make a mess everywhere. Similar to when we did the front brakes, these are flare nuts, and a flare nut wrench is your friend. The shape makes it so that you don't round anything off. You can see it grabs on there really tightly. I can't pull this off like a regular wrench. So we're going to just crack these now, all 4 of them, and it should be pretty simple. Just twist like that. Once you have the lines broken free and rags underneath, we can start to actually loosen the 10mm bolt that holds the entire system onto the car. And now that these are loose, instead of fighting with the flare wrench, you can just use your regular box end and they should come out. So once you got them all out, you should be able to pop these out, and this should clip out of there. All right, it's gonna drip, so be ready. At that point, you'll come back with this straight fitting. This is a 13mm here, so just have one ready. And we're going to, from the bottom, you don't need, do not use any sort of pipe seal on these. There's a flare fitting down here that actually makes the seal. If you use like a thread or something like that, like a thread sealant like I did on the other parts, it will actually not seal correctly and you'll have a leak. So we don't want to do that. These can be kind of finicky, just because getting the threads to start, you can't really bend these hard lines like you can a soft line. So if it does not go smoothly, do not keep going with it. It's gonna strip the threads out, and then you're gonna have a mess, and you're just gonna be leaking brake fluid for a long time. So that's on. It's loose for now. I just want to get this side on so that we're done leaking fluid. So this is where we're gonna put the actual brake bias controller. So on the brake bias controller itself, you have an in and you have an out. Out is your top, in is your bottom. So in a Miata, for it to sit the right way, sadly, the Wilwood logo has to be upside down. So we're going to put that right in there. Oh, just kidding. So the step I almost forgot is we need to thread in these Mpt fitting adapters here. So this is an 11mm wrench. We're just going to want to go until it's snug. These are pipe threads, so they'll never actually bottom out. If you try to bottom them out, you will strip the threads out. Once you've got that, this is the proper orientation of the brake system. So your in is going to be on the bottom and your out is going to be on the top. This is your in and this is your out. So we will go ahead and thread this guy in the top here. Again, no thread sealant because there's a flared fitting in there. We don't want to disrupt that. So I realized here it was easier to do the bottom one first after I'd already installed the top one. So just a little thing of note, just because you can articulate the entire unit a little better from if the top one's undone. So the way this works, to bleed the system, you're going to want to turn it all the way clockwise so that it is, touching this end of this fitting here. That'll be maximum line pressure to the rear. We're obviously not going to drive with it like that because you'll lock the brakes up in the back almost immediately, but you want to let all of the fluid through, all of the air bubbles out. So to start, we're just going to screw this guy all the way in. So that's all the way in. You don't have to crank on it, just go until it stops. And then before we drive it, we'll back this off. You don't want to test it like this. I can tell you this is too much rear bias. I believe it's like 57% of the braking power will go to the rear if you have this all the way in, which is way too much. You want, most of your braking is done by your front brakes, so we're going to want to back this off. I'm not sure how far just yet. That's why we got to go test it out. So I got to find a nice kind of quietish or non-busy road somewhere around here that I can do some brake testing on. But this is how we're going to bleed it. The next steps would be to bleed the rear brakes. Start with the one farthest away from the master cylinder, which positionally it is the passenger rear. But if you actually follow the lines, the one with the most line travel is going to be the driver's side rear. So start with the driver's side rear and then do the passenger side rear. And while you're doing it, you might as well do your fronts too. So you'll do your passenger side front and then driver's side front. And that'll be a fully bled system, and then you can go out and test this out. Time to go set the brake bias. So what I've done now, because I know I don't want it on full front brake or full rear brake, I kind of picked an arbitrary spot in the middle of the thread adjustment, and I'm going to try and do this as fast as possible because it's really sketchy to people who don't know what you're doing to just like see somebody go down the road and try and lock their brakes up a bunch of times. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to a place down the road here that's pretty quiet and literally just try and see which wheels lock up first. If the fronts lock up first, we'll give more rear bias. If the rears lock up first, we'll give more front bias, and we want to find the center. I guess what is, where does it just lock up the front or just lock up the rear? And then you want to adjust it so that it just barely locks the fronts up before the rears, and that's perfect balance. So you can probably dial it to the point where you lock up all four. We'll see if I can get there, but I'm not sure. And just like that, we're back in the garage. That now smells like burnt rubber and hot brakes. The one thing I did notice while I was out there, and you'll see it in the video right before this, the fronts wouldn't lock up. I think the 1.6 master cylinder just doesn't have the balls to do it, so my future probably exists with a 1-inch master cylinder from Wilwood. I drove Joe Lavalle's car, here's his review, yesterday night, and the 1-inch Wilwood master with 4 Wilwoods on the car. It hurts your face, it brakes so hard, which is really nice and really not that expensive for the brake master upgrade, so I'll probably do that this winter. This is definitely more than adequate for, my power goals of 325, 400 horsepower. Stick around, we've got the next episode for you guys for Wednesday is going to be the rear subframe, which is kind of part of this budget big brake kit install. Then the week after that is going to be the rear brakes with the Flow Force 1.8 sport brake adapter kit. Really cool kit, and that'll be it for this install series, but you'll definitely want to subscribe and stick around for this Saturday. We've got some combination of an LS and a DeLorean, so really an LS DeLorean. That's going to be something you don't want to miss, so hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because you're going to want to be there for that. And then yeah, if you like the video, comment down below. We got some killer stuff packed for you, not just in terms of reviews. We're going to be boosting both of our cars this winter. Dylan's going to go for 250, and I'm going to go for 325, maybe 400 wheel, depending how spicy I feel. So it should be a really cool build season come December, January timeframe, and you're definitely not going to want to miss that. So stick around. Thank you guys for the support. We've been really trying to grow the channel, and it's 100% you guys. So we're having fun with it, and we appreciate you being here for it. But I'll give it a few months. I can't work on cars right now anyways. My hands are finally clean. I got 2 weeks left, so I just got to keep it clean for the next 2 weeks, and then I can get back to the fun working on cars bit.